Samantha, and I'm going to talk about the muscular system. There are many different topics that I could talk about, but I want to focus on a couple specific ones. The topics that I will be discussing in this video are the different types of muscle fibers, the purpose of different muscles, muscle contractions, and muscular disorders. Let's jump into a basic intro to the different types and purposes of muscles. A muscle is made up of many small bundles of muscle cells, also known as muscle fibers. The muscular system has 3 different types of fibers: smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and skeletal muscle. The first type of muscle fibers, which are smooth muscle fibers, are non-striated muscles and do not have light and dark bands. Smooth muscle fibers only have one nucleus or are unenucleated. The muscle fibers are arranged in parallel lines, making sheets that line the walls of internal organs and blood vessels. Smooth muscles control involuntary actions, such as pushing waste from our digestive tract and body, in addition to enlarging and dilating pupils. The next type of muscle fibers, cardiac muscle fibers, also control involuntary movements. They control the involuntary movement of the heart. Cardiac muscle fibers are unenucleated cells like the smooth muscle and can be found in the walls of the heart. They are striated, having light and dark bands, and have a tubular shape. Cardiac muscle fibers have branching, which lets the fibers connect to intercalated discs. Intercalated discs have gap junctions, which help the cardiac muscles do its job quickly. That job is to pump blood throughout our bodies. When the cardiac muscles contract or shorten, the blood is forced out of the heart. When the cardiac muscles relax, blood is able to rush into the heart. These muscles follow a rhythm, giving us our heartbeat. The last type of muscle fiber is the skeletal muscle fiber. Skeletal muscle fibers are striated, have multiple nuclei, and have a tube shape. These individual muscle fibers form large bundles called fascicles. The fascicles are then bundled to make the skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscles are connected to the skeleton by tendons, which are straps of fibrous connective tissue. Skeletal muscles control voluntary movements, such as moving different parts of our bodies, and have many other purposes. They support our bodies to keep us standing up, move our bones and body structures, move fluids through the cardiovascular and lymphatic system, maintain a constant body temperature, protect our vital organs, and stabilize our joints. We're going to focus more on the skeletal muscle today, so let's break down the anatomy of a skeletal muscle. We learned earlier that muscle fibers form little bundles called fascicles, and the fascicles bundle together to form the actual muscle. Skeletal muscles have 2 different parts, the origin and the insertion. The origin is a section of the muscle that is attached to a stationary bone. The insertion is a part of the muscle that is attached to a mobile bone. These 2 sections of muscles play a big role in muscle movement. Whole muscle contraction is a very complex process. Let's break down the process it takes to make one muscle contract. Muscle contraction can be described by the sliding filament model. First, the nervous system creates nerve impulses which travel down the motor neurons and stimulates the muscle fibers at the neuromuscular junctions. Next, the synaptic cleft splits the sarcolemma and the axon terminal. After that, the sarcolemma forms T-tubules that almost touch the sarcoplasmic reticulum, where calcium ions are stored. These calcium ions are then released into the muscle fibers, forcing the actin filaments to slide past myosin filaments. At the neuromuscular junction, the synaptic vesicles will release acetylcholine, or ACH, which is a neurotransmitter to diffuse across the synaptic cleft. The ACH is received by the sarcolemma, and the electrical signals cause a release of the calcium ions. These ions will bind to troponin and cause the tropomyosin proteins to shift, which will expose myosin binding sites. At the site, ATP will be split into ADP and an inorganic phosphate molecule, which will be used as energy. After that, the ADP and phosphate will be released, forcing the cross bridges to change positions. The actin filaments will be pulled to the center of the sarcomere, and the cycle repeats itself continuously. Now, using the information we just learned, let's talk about whole muscle contraction. There are 3 different things that have to happen in whole muscle contraction. The first includes the motor units inside of the muscles. A motor unit is a motor neuron and all the muscle fibers it stimulates. Each motor unit contraction is summed up as a muscle twitch, summation, and tetanus. The amount of strength in a single muscle contraction varies with recruitment of motor units. An example of many muscle motor units that contract in turns to maintain a constant slight tension is the muscle tone. The next part of whole muscle contraction is generating the energy for the contraction. ATP is the source of energy for the contraction and can be acquired in 3 different ways. The first way the body generates ATP is by having creatine phosphate transfer a phosphate to ADP, forming ATP. This is the fastest way to produce ATP. Another way is fermentation, which is associated with an oxygen depth because oxygen is needed to burn the accumulated lactate. The last way is cellular respiration, and it provides most of the body's ATP. This process takes the longest because glucose and oxygen need to be taken in the blood to a mitochondria and only occurs during aerobic exercise. Cellular respiration burns fatty acids in addition to glucose. The last part of muscle contraction is fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch muscle fibers have less mitochondria and myoglobin, but each motor unit has more fibers. Fast twitch fibers rely on anaerobic methods to get ATP. One form of anaerobic exercise is jump roping. Now back to the information. Fast twitch fibers are known to be very explosive but tire quickly. Opposite of fast twitch muscle fibers are slow twitch fibers. Slow twitch fibers have more mitochondria and myoglobin, which gives them a darker pigment, and they rely on aerobic respiration to get ATP. Aerobic respiration is just cellular respiration and can occur during running, walking, swimming, and other exercises that are very similar to these. To wrap up the presentation, let's talk about the different muscular disorders that can happen. In the first category, we are going to talk about spasms, cramps, and convulsions, which are all different types of muscle contractions. Spasms are sudden involuntary contractions of one or more muscles. This causes sudden pain. Cramps are another type of muscle contraction and can also cause pain. They are similar to spasms, although they tend to last longer. Convulsions are another type of involuntary muscle contraction and happen at a rhythmic pace. The contractions occur in some or all of the involuntary muscles. Convulsions are associated with brain disorders such as epilepsy or fevers in young children. The next category is centered around muscular system injuries, which include strains, sprains, tendinitis, and bursitis. Muscle strains are an injury to the muscle that is often caused by overuse or improper use of that muscle. Muscle strains have varying degrees and can be from simply overstretching a muscle to tearing parts or the entire muscle. A sprain is different from a strain and is an injury to a ligament, which is caused by an abnormal force experienced by a joint. This causes the ligament to stretch or tear. According to the Mayo Clinic, the most common area that sprains occur are in the ankles and can be caused by exercising on an uneven surface or having an improper landing from a jump. The next condition is tendinitis and is a form of inflammation in the muscle tendons and attachments. Tendinitis is caused by a sudden injury or too much repetition of a specific movement, which can be caused by work or repetitive hobbies. The last condition is bursitis, which occurs when the bursitis sac is inflamed. When the sac bursts, synovial fluid surrounds the affected joint and swelling can occur. The final category is focused on the different diseases that can happen in the muscular system. The first type of disease is a myalgia, which is a muscle pain caused by overuse or overstretching. Fibromyalgia is a chronic condition which causes widespread pain in the muscles and soft tissues around joints. The next type of disease is muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive form of muscle weakness caused by a deficiency in the dystrophin protein. Duchenne's muscular dystrophy is a chronic and progressive disease that affects the shoulder and pelvic girdles. The disease onsets during early childhood and is a result of a sex-linked trait, affecting more males than females. The disease causes increasing muscle weakness, which leads to atrophy in the body. This atrophy can damage muscles and organs in the body, potentially causing respiratory weakness and heart failure, leading to death. The following disease is myasthenia gravis, which is another chronic disease that causes weak muscles to easily become fatigued. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease that causes our body's immune systems to attack neuromuscular junctions, which cause stimuli to not be transmitted from motor neurons to the muscle fibers. This disease affects the eyelids, face, neck, and extremities. The final disease that I am going to talk about is a form of cancer called a sarcoma. A sarcoma is a cancer that is found in many types of tissues, adipose and cartilage, and affects both smooth and skeletal muscle. These are only some of the muscular disorders that can happen in the muscular system, but hopefully there will be a way to eliminate all disorders in the future. This marks the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something new about your body and the wonderful muscular system that lies underneath each and every single one of us. Thank you. Bye.